This video was brought to you by Squarespace. Please stay tuned until the end of the video for a word from our sponsor. Hello everyone, my name is Emily, and today I'm going to talk about art, creativity, and parenting. Now, if you're not a parent, before you click off this video, keep in mind that some of this advice may be useful to you if you have younger siblings, younger cousins, or perhaps you work with children. Now, I'm not an expert on parenting, I'm not an expert on kids. This is just how I am able to incorporate my own creativity into my role as a mother. And this advice does not have to specifically pertain to things like traditional art only. It can pertain to things like writing, poetry, dance, Legos, sculpting, building, a whole range of creative activities. Now, in my specific case, I'm going to be talking about traditional art, specifically painting, drawing, and watercolor art, and how I'm able to kind of blend that into my time with my sons. Now, I technically have 3 sons. The oldest, who is 11, is my stepson, and we really only get to see him a couple hours each week, but I affectionately call him Gooby. And then I have 2 younger biological children, Beanie, FKA DeBabes, who is 2.5, and then our newest addition, who is barely over a month old, who I call DePoos, Poopy, or most often I call him Wiggy. We've got some unique nicknames in this family, that's for sure. But obviously, most of my experience incorporating that creativity into my role as a parent comes from parenting Gooby, and then mostly because I spend most of my time with Beanie. Wiggy's a little bit too young to really do too much creative things with, other than be like, go you shit. It's a work of art! A work of fart, if you know what I mean. Wow, I am actually 4 years old today. The number one most obvious piece of advice that I can give is find little ways to incorporate creative ideas into everyday situations with your children. Don't feel like it's a waste of time to encourage your children to think outside of the box in relatively abstract ways, like, for example, going for a walk and then having them collect things like sticks and rocks and leaves and cicada shells, and then when you get back from the walk, encourage them to make pictures and shapes out of these things that they've collected. Another great way to bring about that type of thinking is to do some mosaic style artwork with ripped up construction paper, beads, feathers, gems, sequins. Here's an example of 2 things that Beanie made with just ripped up plain white paper, googly eyes, feathers, and sequins. A great way to give them a little push is to start bouncing ideas off of each other. So in this case, we ended up on T-Rex and rocket ship. Most of the time, your kid will probably not know what they are making when they start making it. They will not have a completed idea in their head, but as they work, an object will start to take shape, and from there, that's when their imagination kicks in. That's when they're able to see the shapes in the clouds, so to speak. That's why I really love the treasure hunt exercise as well as this mosaic exercise, because there is a whole host of things that your child can create without even knowing it. If you currently don't have any access to art supplies, or say you are out in the world somewhere with your child and it is not practical to carry around a bunch of ripped up paper, try to encourage your child to seek out shapes and images on things like wood grain, tile in the clouds. Teach them to seek out patterns and colors and shapes and reoccurrences in the world. In doing this, it may reduce the times that your kid is pulling at your pant leg, asking to use your phone to watch a YouTube video, and it hopefully will divert their attention to something else and encourage their brain to work in a more dynamic and abstract way. Another really important piece of advice is to try to make the act of creating a together activity. It's so easy to give your kids crayons and a coloring book and say, go to town and hope for the best, but a really great way to solidify that creativity is just as important as other more academic things is to sit down and actually wholeheartedly participate in the activity with your child. When you as a parent radiate positivity and excitement, your child is naturally going to want to mimic whatever activity you're doing that is creating such excitement and positive feelings within their parent. So when they see you, the parent or guardian, wrist deep in Sequins and Googly Eyes, giggling like a fucking schoolgirl, they're going to want to be wrist deep in Sequins and Googly Eyes, giggling like a fucking schoolgirl. Now, I'm not saying you have to overact like someone featured on an after-school PBS special. I'm just saying inject a little bit of enthusiasm on your part in this activity. Another great way to demonstrate that the act of creating can be a together activity as well as a solitary activity is to sit down with your kid, have them work in their sketchbook, and you work in yours. I did this a lot with Gooby when he was a little bit younger, and I do it all the time with Beanie. And with Beanie, since he's so young, only being 2.5, a lot of the times we will kind of cross-pollinate, if you will. So I will end up drawing things in his sketchbook, and he will end up drawing things in mine, and it's really cute and a really fun way to kind of do your own thing while still kind of basking in each other's glory, if that... Sure. The glory of all things creative. Bask in it, my child, and never cease gazing upon its amazement. Basking in one another's presence. That's where I was going with that. It's also really healthy for your child to see that it's a quiet activity that can be taken a little bit more seriously as well. Of course, it's still fun and enjoyable, but when they see you kind of quieting down and focusing, they too will want to mimic and emulate that behavior. When they see that art is multifaceted, it's a way to be expressive and enthusiastic as well as a way to be calm and collected and express their emotions. That's when it'll be a lot easier for them to start applying art and creativity into their own lives without always needing your help to do so. Now, keep in mind, some children are much more creatively inclined than others. If you have a child that is just not interested in art or painting or what have you, whatever activity you're trying to do together, don't force it. Even if you see an exceptional amount of promise in your child in this certain activity, even if you did this activity so you desperately want your child to also do this activity, please remember that your kid is an individual, and if they are not interested, do not try to force something where it doesn't fit. Now, this doesn't mean to not reintroduce this activity in different stages in their life, because what they don't like today, they could like in a year from now. I'm just saying, don't try to force something that you love onto your child if they just aren't loving it in the same way. That's not fair to them. It's going to make them unhappy. It's going to make them feel like you're not proud of them because you won't let it go. And it also make you frustrated and exasperated because you'll keep asking yourself, but I didn't, why won't they? And I'm going to tell you right now, your child may be a mini version of you in looks or in behavior, but your child is not you. No matter how young they are their own person with their own likes, their own dislikes, their own tastes, and their own interests. Whatever activities they may be interested in, always remember to encourage and be supportive and show enthusiasm, but not so much enthusiasm that you shower them with embarrassment. Proud parent, yes. PBS after school special, no. Speaking of complicated emotions, another little piece of advice I want to touch on right now is teaching your kids how to use their creativity as an outlet for emotional expression. Being a kid is really lonely. A lot of the time you are stuck in rooms with older children or adults. You are usually the least listened to demographic. You are often othered. You are often pushed aside. You are often patted on the head and told to run along. And not only that, but you are literally physically smaller in stature than a lot of other people that you interact with in your daily life. It is a very lonely existence, and there are a lot of complicated emotions that come with that. And children, notoriously very small children, have a very hard time managing these complicated feelings. Not just managing these feelings, but also being able to name these feelings. I have a 2.5-year-old, and his vocabulary includes mad, sad, and happy. It's very difficult when he feels things in between those emotions, when he feels those gray areas. Asking your child to express their emotions in a creative and controlled way is already planting the seeds of some great coping mechanisms and outlets for later on in life. It's starting to help them identify these emotions in a controlled environment. It's already starting to get them to think about streamlining their emotions into this creative outlet opposed to maybe throwing a physical outburst like a tantrum. It's giving them a healthy alternative to an otherwise potentially destructive expression of feelings. Now, obviously, all the advice I gave today is not one size fits all. I am not a mental health expert, I am not a doctor, and I am not a parenting expert. I'm just talking strictly from my own personal experience with myself and my children. My whole channel is basically me just talking into the ether, hoping that some of my personal experiences and what I've learned from them might help somebody else. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to stay out of trouble. See you guys later. This video was brought to you by Squarespace. Be a part of the ever-expanding community of creators who choose Squarespace to help create their websites. Squarespace is an easy-to-use website builder that provides you with all the tools that you'll need to broadcast your business, portfolio, or personal blog to the world. There are tons of unique layout designs to choose from, all of which are also available for mobile viewing. If you're running an online shop or business, you'll have access to helpful e-commerce templates to make checking out a secure and simple process for your customers. You'll also have access to inventory management tools to make keeping up with sales an easy task. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/EmilyArtful to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Make your own website today with Squarespace.